Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I know opinions clearly differ about where we're headed in the future, but I think as Mr. Johnson's chart demonstrates, when we concluded the Clinton administration, we had a surplus for the first time in recent memory. And a huge tax cut where Alan Greenspan sat where you're sitting, Mr. Johnson, and told us that the justification for this tax cut in part was that we were reducing the debt too fast, that we would create some uncertainties in the bond market because we were moving so quickly. But an unpaid tax cut, unpaid prescription benefits, 2 unpaid wars, now we're told we can no longer afford, by some of our Republican colleagues, to provide health security for people at 65 or 66 that you'd like to do it, but we just can't afford to do it anymore. And as it relates specifically to the proposal we just heard the administration's statement on, I gather your opinion, Mr. Johnson, is, better than have a Valentine's Day cliff to at least have some additional time to help resolve this. But if we keep moving in 3-month or 1-month or 6-month spurts, the effect on economic growth will be very damaging.
Absolutely, Congressman. If we can pull up Figure 1 from my written testimony, what you would get is there's the spike from August 2011. You're going to have that every 3 months. That was a disastrous month for hiring because who wants to hire when you don't know if there are going to be payments made by the government or if various other disruptions are going to take place? These are big numbers for the U.S. economy. You're going to do this every 3 months for how long? Until you have another election? That's far too long for the health and sanity of the American people.
And at the same time we had that phenomenon, I believe the General Accountability Office has estimated that the direct cost of Republicans taking us right up to the brink on the debt, on the full faith and credit of the United States last time was over $1 billion in increased interest costs. We could also expect to see an increase in borrowing costs for taxpayers if we don't get this debt ceiling resolved.
That is a definite possibility, Congressman. To the extent we disrupt debt markets, if we worry investors, if we create risk, and we're hurting not just the federal government, this has implications for state governments and for local governments that, of course, do not generally borrow at the low interest rate that the federal government borrows at. So they have a risk premium in there. You are driving up risk premium around the world when you generate this kind of uncertainty.
Your written testimony indicates that for a decade, actually for a couple of decades, we've seen income inequality increase dramatically with little change in income for 90% of wage earners and a 50% increase for those at the top. What are the policies that you think we most need to address other than getting stability on this full faith and credit of the United States to change that and to ensure that there is a more equitable share in the success of the American economy?
Well, the evidence is completely compelling that education, human capital, the ability of people to work with information technology, these are huge determinants of what's happened to income inequality. And many people in American society today cannot afford by themselves to get that kind of education. To the extent that you can make resources available to support younger people, support families in the pursuit of high productivity human capital, that's good for them, that's good for the economy, and that's good for the tax base. So over the medium term, that's absolutely going to strengthen the budget.
And in terms of competitiveness worldwide, building a stronger workforce from, as you mentioned, early childhood education to access to a college education is really vital to American competitiveness, isn't it?
It's the number one determinant of both our competitiveness, the extent to which we can compete with other countries, and our productivity. How much do we actually produce per person in this economy? Number one determinant looking forward is human capital. That's about education. It's about ability to innovate, ability to work with those new technologies.
And over the short run, what is the effect of across-the-board cuts on early childhood education, on Pell Grants, on research funding for medical research and other basic scientific research?
It's all going to be negative for growth and for human capital, and it's going to impact equality, and to the extent that you don't have a progressive tax system, it's also going to give you negative impact on the budget.
While the most immediate concern I know is, and the main focus of your testimony is upholding the full faith and credit of the United States, is it your feeling that at this time in our economy, we need to see a contraction of government spending?
All right, time has expired.